To understand the Flying Dutchman, we need to go back to the 17th century, an era of grand voyages and treacherous seas. The story of the Flying Dutchman is most often linked to the age of exploration, when European sailors ventured into unknown waters. During this time, the seas were dangerous, weather was unpredictable, navigation tools were crude, and many voyages ended in tragedy. In this context, the legend of the Flying Dutchman was born, a ghost ship doomed to sail the seas for all eternity. But where did this story begin? There are different versions, but many accounts point to the Dutch captain named Hendrik van der Decken. In 1641, van der Decken was said to be captaining a ship around the Cape of Good Hope, the southern tip of Africa. As his ship encountered a violent storm, his crew begged him to turn back, but van der Decken refused, supposedly cursing the weather and swearing that he would continue his voyage even if it took all of eternity. Some say he even cursed God. That's when the curse took hold. Van der Decken and his crew were doomed to sail forever, never to reach port. The legend of the Flying Dutchman quickly spread across the seas, and over the centuries, sailors began to tell of eerie encounters with this phantom ship. The tale took on a life of its own, with new details being added over time. In some versions of the story, the Dutchman's crew is said to be made up of the souls of the damned, sailing with no hope of redemption. Other stories say the ship is a vessel of death, appearing as a warning of doom to those who see it. According to most legends, seeing the Flying Dutchman is considered a terrible omen. If a ship's crew spotted the Dutchman on the horizon, it meant disaster was near. Whether it was a deadly storm, a shipwreck, or even death itself. The descriptions of the ship are haunting. A dark, weathered vessel with tattered sails, glowing with an eerie light. Sometimes it's seen floating above the water, and other times it's said to sail at impossible speeds, disappearing in a flash. But could there be some truth to these sightings? Could natural phenomena, like mirages, explain the appearance of the Flying Dutchman? Let's now take a look at some of the most famous sightings of the Flying Dutchman. These accounts, stretching from the 1700s to the modern era, continue to fuel the mystery. One of the earliest recorded sightings comes from the 1700s, when a British naval officer wrote of seeing a ghostly ship sailing in the distance near the Cape of Good Hope. The officer described the ship as glowing with an unnatural light. However, perhaps the most famous sighting occurred in 1881, when the future King George V of England, then a young prince, was sailing near Australia. According to the prince's log, he and his crew saw the Flying Dutchman suddenly appear out of nowhere, glowing with a strange red light. Hours later, one of the sailors who had seen the ship mysteriously fell to his death, a tragic end that seemed to confirm the Dutchman's curse. The incident shocked the crew, and the legend of the Dutchman as an omen of doom was only reinforced. Even into the 20th century, sailors continued to report sightings of ghostly ships that matched descriptions of the Flying Dutchman. Some believe that these sightings are simply tricks of the light, what's known as a superior mirage or fata morgana. In a fata morgana, light bends over the horizon, creating the illusion of ships floating in mid-air, or ships that aren't really there. Could this explain the Dutchman's ghostly appearances? While science offers explanations for some sightings, the sheer number of encounters over the centuries leaves many people wondering whether there could be something more to the legend. The Flying Dutchman has captured the imagination of people for centuries, becoming a symbol of mystery and doom in maritime folklore. The legend has appeared in books, operas, and movies, including Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean, where the cursed ship plays a major role. Whether you believe the Dutchman is a trick of the light, a ghost ship doomed to wander the seas, or something in between, one thing is certain: the legend continues to haunt sailors and storytellers alike. So what do you think? Is the Flying Dutchman a real phenomenon, or just a myth passed down through generations? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and remember, some mysteries are never truly solved.